Hello everyone, it's Leon here with Kotaku UK, and I am joined by Lena Brenk, who is the lead producer on Civilization After Earth. Beyond Earth, sorry. After Earth was the movie.
Yes.
So obviously it's in space now, which is obviously a big departure from the kind of the historical leanings of previous civs. What was the kind of the idea behind that?
I think for us it felt like a very natural step. We've told the history of mankind, players have told the history of mankind through Civilization, through the Civilization series, several times. And that thought of what would be the next chapter in human history. Where would humanity go if it would go out there? And how would the future of mankind look was a really interesting question for us. How do civilizations in the future look? Like, how would we build a new civilization on an alien world? That always intrigued us, and it feels like a very natural step. It does help, of course, that we have a lot of sci-fi fans at the studio that got really excited and enthusiastic about that idea as well. So, that's how it started. It was just like, okay, that's a very natural next step. Let's look at how mankind will fare on an alien planet in the future. Okay,
so you mentioned that you have worked on a lot of civs. They've all been historical. They work a certain way. What's been the biggest overall change to the game as a whole, moving into space?
Definitely the tech web. So if you look at the history of mankind, the research and the technology tree is kind of predefined, because we did research the wheel at some point before the cannon and before refrigeration and so on. So we have a clear path there. And while you can kind of pick and choose in a historical civilization game what to go for first, it's a linear progression, and towards the end of the game you will have researched the whole tree. Now, if we're going into the future is kind of uncertain. We don't know exactly where humanity will go from here. And there's several possibilities, several ideas out there. And the designers just picked 3 of those main directions that they could imagine and find really exciting. And said, okay, so if we went out there, there's very different possibilities. How do we reflect that in a game? And that's the tech web. You start in the middle and you can go out in any direction you want and shape the future of mankind that way.
It's a hugely open thing, isn't it? So it is, you start in the middle, you can go in any direction at all. I mean, how hard has it been to kind of to balance that? Because you could go in one line as far as you go, you could spread in a circle. You were talking about the sort of the teardrop shape was the sort of the general rule. How easy has it been to get that to work together?
Well, we're still balancing. We're usually balancing until the game launches, because that's just a huge part of Civilization game with all the different systems layering. But there's certain systems in place where the techs that are further out are more expensive, so you have some incentive to go for the ones that are close to you first, unless you want to beeline somewhere and just go for it, which is more expensive because you're also neglecting all the other basic things around you at first. And I think the teardrop shape is what we find is very realistic for a playthrough, just because those basic webs around the center are still fairly realistic. They are still rooted in current science, and they are based on physics and chemistry, and you just get to know the new planet basically and get to learn to survive on this new environment as mankind. And then from there you pick like the more outlandish directions, and the further it goes into the future, the more uncertain we are of what scientific discoveries there will be for mankind. So we'll leave it up to the player basically to decide in every playthrough where they want to go. At least up to a certain degree, I guess. In any civ game you usually get influenced a lot by the terrain and like the decisions sometimes made for you, because just the situation requires you to react in a certain way. So you sometimes need to research certain things and you get pushed in a certain direction.
Okay, so what are sort of the technologies then that are available? Because the one that I think appealed to me, or the one I found most interesting, was the idea of like gene splicing. And so you're on the planet and you've got the aliens, and you can decide to basically sort of merge with them. I mean, what are the sort of the core options? Because you have the affinities, isn't it?
Yes,
so there's purity.
Yes, there's 3 affinities.
Yes, can you sort of explain those and how that links into the technology?
So one of the most interesting questions that the designers posed right at the beginning of the project that I found really, that helped me envision those 3 affinities a lot was when they get to the new planet, those humans, how will the planet shape them and how will they shape the planet? And those 3 affinities are basically expressions of that. Purity is the first affinity. Those guys will try to remain as human as possible, so they will try to shape the planet to fit their needs. So they will try to build a new Earth, a Garden Eden, so to speak, a perfect Earth for them, so they don't have to change. Supremacy goes the completely other way. They use robotics and AI mostly to become completely independent of any surroundings. So they're going like, so Earth didn't work out that well. Now we're on a new planet. We don't want to be dependent on those planets. Let's just become independent of our environments so we can go out to other planets afterwards and always be independent. And they use robotics for that goal. And then there's Harmony, the guys you already mentioned. Mm-hmm. They do gene splicing. They just research everything there is to know about this planet, and their goal is to become one with the planet. So they change themselves to become more adaptive to the planet, or more to fit in better with the planet, to become basically an indigenous species in the end.
Okay, we saw, when I played it, you saw the buildings sort of change and mm-hmm. things sort of change characteristic according to how you mm-hmm. play. I mean, how far does that go? I mean, say with the Harmony guys, will you end up with essentially a bunch of aliens instead, sort of all half-human kind of aliens?
So what comes into play here is the unit upgrade system as well. Mm-hmm. The affinity levels will inform the unit upgrade decisions you have available. So every time you get to a new affinity level, there's some units you can upgrade. And the visuals, as well as some of the perks you get for an upgrade, are tailored towards the affinities. So in fact, the Harmony guys will start, you'll see more chitin appearing as, you know, like the
armor sort of.
Yeah, thank you, armor. And they'll just use what they find on the planet. The Harmony guys will, if you remember that green nebulous, the gas that was hurting your unit, but it was actually healing the alien units. Mm. So if you go down the Harmony tree far enough, or the Harmony affinity far enough, miasma won't hurt you anymore. You will be able to use it to your advantage, things like that. So.
Yeah, you mentioned the aliens, so this was something I found quite interesting, because when I was playing it, lots of aliens sort of milling around, and I was trying to sort of leave them alone, because mm-hmm. obviously if you antagonise them, they start attacking you. Mm-hmm. But then some of the other colonists, they came in, they started attacking the aliens, and then kind of they started attacking me, and all sort of hell broke loose. But the aliens and the planet are a sort of, they're sort of a faction in their own right, but they're not really kind of, they don't have an allegiance to anything. Can you just sort of talk a bit about, I guess, how the aliens work, and how essentially what is a new kind of character within the game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are certainly an entity. Yes. Out there. The aliens reflect the planet's attitude towards you, kind of how threatened it feels by mankind. And you have to remember that you are kind of the alien, you know, like you arrive on this planet and you don't belong there. Like mankind doesn't belong there, it just comes in and starts pushing the aliens back. So the aliens will definitely start defending their territory, and what the other humans on the planet do will affect them, but only to a certain degree. So there's 2 vectors here. One is how overall aggressive the behavior of the aliens is, and that is informed by everybody's action. And then they do also have a degree of reaction just towards you. So if you go after them personally and start killing them very insistently, they will attack you more than if just everybody else is being aggressive. Okay. But you can't play completely peacefully if everybody else is attacking them, because they will just overall be more aggressive. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the new things and the changes. What are sort of the core things that old Civ players are going to recognise when they come to sort of essentially what is a new kind of start for the series? Yeah, we did look at that, like what makes a Civ game. I also know the designers asked Sid several times, like, is this core to Civ, or you know, like what did you think like when the first one was made? Like, and there's certain things, like for example, it's the terrain always plays a big role, the resources around you, and city building is such a staple or such a core system. Without that, it wouldn't be a civilization for us. There's also this notion of just different play styles, being able to play very differently and still, like pick the parts of the game they have fun with. So there's research, there's culture, and there's the builder types and the more warlike types playing the game. And these systems being able to just exist next to each other. I think we find that Civ players, Civ fans, do find themselves feel at home when they play Beyond Earth. But you also need to be very careful, because if you just use your strategies from previous Civ titles, that is very risky and usually doesn't bode well for you, just because the systems have changed. And for example, if you treat the aliens like you would have treated barbarians in Civ 5, that's
not going to end
tricky.
Well.
Yeah, you need to treat those new systems very differently. So there's new stuff to discover, but it's a civilization game.
Lovely. And so it's out on PC, Linux, Mac. What was the release date again?
In fall this year.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.